Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us 45 minutes of your time. So whether you are a seasoned Gaggle pro or you're just, starting your journey with us, we are just so thrilled to have you here with us. And so today we are going to explore our new web activity monitoring. And we know that this can be such an incredible tool to help keep students safe online. So I'm going to be giving you some introductory information about web activity monitoring, and then, fill in the gaps if you've already learned some things and you want to learn some more. I am joined by some real experts from Gaggle. So as we go through today's virtual session, if you have questions, if you have wonderings, go ahead, use that chat, ask your questions, because I know you are not the only one who's going to be thinking whatever it is you're thinking. And so we're all going to benefit from the questions that are coming to mind. We know that Gaggle's new web activity monitor is designed to enhance the safety of students by catching critical content that may indicate some self-destructive behavior or violations of school policies. And we are so excited to be able to introduce that to you today. My name is Lisa Wilcoxon, and here at Gaggle, I am so lucky because I have the incredible job of leading our customer education. But before that, I've worn many different hats, from teacher and school leader to program administrator. And I'm absolutely passionate about student safety, physical, psychological, emotional. And in the last few years, I've been working in educational technology, where I've been trying to work on finding some solutions to these tricky problems that come with keeping our schools thriving. And that's why I'm just so excited to be with this group here today. I truly do believe that the tool that we're going to be talking about is going to make a real difference for your students. It is designed to support the amazing people like you who are doing the most important work in the world. So let's dive in and let's talk about how we can really lighten that load together. Before we go any further, though, into the meat, let's get a sense of who is in this virtual space. So if you haven't already, go ahead, go to the chat and check out some of the folks that are here. If you haven't introduced yourself, go ahead, share your name and your role at your district. And if you have introduced yourself, then go ahead and share your favorite Gaggle tool or feature. Awesome. Great to have you here, Joel. Awesome. So we know that this webinar is meant to be informative, and I promise you it will be. And there's no better place really to get information than from all of these fellow practitioners in the field. So yes, thank you for introducing yourself. And thank you for telling us what your favorite Gaggle tool is. Let's see, what do we have here? All the notifications. Yes, Nora and Nadine. PSS alerts. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And the ability to audit email trails. Ooh, saved an actual life in our district yesterday afternoon. Oh, Megan, so happy to hear that. So happy. That is literally why we do what we do. Alerts and audit capabilities. The lockers, yes. PSS alerts. Absolutely, absolutely. Emergency notifications. That's what you want to know, right? That's how you can take action. Incident workflow portal. Yes, yes. Awesome. Oh my gosh, thank you. It is so great to hear that the tools that we are working on together are really making a difference and truly saving lives. Friday evening notifications. Michael, I'm not sure if you're joking, but I appreciate that you appreciate the after hours alerts as well. No worries at all. Great to have you, Gary. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Michael. Yes, Gaggle representatives. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Jennifer. We have such an amazing team here. We have our safety team representatives. We have our support team. They are working day in, day out. And so I'm so glad to hear that you're appreciating those conversations because they are truly incredibly knowledgeable people. Um, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We have such a great crew in here, and you already found this chat. So please do use it throughout today's session to just share your thoughts, share your questions, share your wonderings, or your aha moments, maybe, if you have any throughout today's session. So thank you. By the end of our time together, you're going to understand, hopefully, the value of Gaggle's web activity monitoring and how it can really safeguard students and support digital learning environments. And we're going to know your next steps if you're interested in implementing it. And great question, Tim. We are going to be sharing this recording. So everybody who is joining today, we will be sharing that recording in no less than 48 hours, no more than 48 hours from today. Awesome. So the hope is really that you're going to see how Gaggle's new web activity monitoring is going to provide your districts with this important tool to identify students in crisis, and how it really does extend the support that we're already offering through Gaggle Safety Management by monitoring student online behavior in browsers and on their accounts and on school-issued devices. And to do that, we're first going to review the key features of Gaggle's new web activity monitoring. We're going to look at what it is, why we built it, and then we're going to take a look at what are some of the content that is being flagged by our web activity monitor. We're going to have some opportunities for an open Q&A if your questions haven't been answered throughout today's session, and I'll leave you with some next steps if you are interested in proceeding. If there's anything else you want to learn today, go ahead, throw it in the chat, and we'll try to fit it in so that this is really a great use of your time. All right, so let's go and start talking about why it is that we are all here today. I want to ground us in our vision and in our mission here at Gaggle. So our vision is really that all schools are safe and all students are getting the mental and emotional help that they need. We know that this is so incredible. And this is really why we do what we do. Mental and physical health have a direct correlation to academic achievement. And it is absolutely crucial to ensure that students are getting the attention and the help that they need it when they need it. And so our mission is to ensure the safety and the well-being of students and schools by leveraging two incredibly important things: people and technology. And hopefully you are seeing real alignment with your district goals to create this learning environment where every student is receiving that mental and emotional support that they need. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about that technology piece of our vision. As educators, we know that it is our job to prepare students for the 21st century, right? And all things unknowable beyond. And we believe, I mean, you are the IT folks, you are the directors of technology. We have so many of you in this group right here. And so we believe in this promise of technology and are committed, right, to ensuring that students succeed by giving them the tools that they need. But as adults responsible for their behavior, it is also important for us to know how students are using their tools. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about, given all that you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, how are students using their digital tools? And how is this possibly the same or different than the way you as an adult use your digital tools? Feel free to answer the first question, the second question, or both questions together in the chat. And I'll give you a moment to type out these answers. Very concerningly, yeah. I'm guessing that's for the first question. Yeah. In some ways, out of concern. In some ways, they're using it in really productive ways, right? Communicating with other people. They're playing more games and chatting with each other. Yes, probably playing more games and chatting with each other than the staff does. That's probably true. Um, though I know Candy Crush is very addictive for people of all ages. Yeah. And feel free to share these responses with everyone too. You can click on the drop down in the chat that has everyone, and then there's also one to host and panelists. If you're feeling shy, totally get it. You can do the host and panelists, but it also helps to have all these great thoughts that you have go to everybody here. Chat tracking, yes. Email, communication, OneDrive files, instant messaging. Holy moly. So many different ways that students are using their tools, so many different ways that we are using the tools, right? Really similar in using it for communication and email, using it TikTok all the time. Can they please get off of TikTok? I hear you. Um, there are there's these concerning behaviors, there's productive behaviors. So right now, as you've named, we have some productive behaviors, right? Students are researching, they're writing their papers, they're collaborating, they're communicating, they are getting feedback, they are giving feedback, they're taking their assessments online, they are doing their homework using their computers, they are reading books, they are reading articles. There are tons of ways that these tools are being used productively. But also, and they're doing AI, which could be productive and also destructive, right? Depends on how they are using it. Absolutely, such a great point. Um, so we know that students can use these tools productively, and some of these really do mirror what we do. But children do not always know how to avoid some of the negative effects from the web while taking in all the positive that the internet and that their digital tools have to offer, and sometimes can be stuck in using some of these tools in a destructive way. And some of the most useful sites where students are getting their information can also quickly become really dangerous when our students do not know how to engage appropriately or they're left unmonitored, right? It's really difficult for students to navigate the complexities of the internet and avoiding some of its pitfalls. Many educational sites that provide valuable resources can quickly become a hazard if students don't know how to interact safely and are left unsupervised. And so, just like adults, right? Just like us, students are using the internet, they're using it to learn, they're using it to connect, they're using it to seek answers. And all of our digital footprints, like our search histories, can really reveal so much about our interests, about our concerns, about what is going on with our psyche. In fact, it's often said that platforms like Google might actually understand us better than we know ourselves. So, for example, take last week. There was a recent surge in Google searches. I don't know, what do you think might have been a common trend for last Tuesday? Okay, all right, I see it. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Folks have got it. Yeah, it was the day after the eclipse, right? And there was a surge in folks who were searching for something around "my eyes hurt." So if you did search for that last Tuesday after staring up at the eclipse, don't worry, you weren't alone. And this was an uptick that actually was noted after the eclipse in 2017. Um, there was an eclipse. I know, we're stuck in a building, right? Who knows what's happening outside? Um, um, but this was actually something that was noted in 2017. And because this pattern was noted more broadly, ophthalmologists actually were more prepared this year to serve their populations and to serve their patients, because they were emphasizing protective eyewear in advance based on these Google searches that that happened in 2017. And just like Google is using this information and ophthalmologists are using this information of trending searches, we too in the building, in the district, can use the information of how our students are searching to inform how we proceed and use this as valuable data. The ways that we utilize the internet are really reflecting the pulse of our communities, whether it's nationally, locally at our schools, and even personally within our households. And students, as we talked about, are really mirroring these adult behaviors and are increasingly turning to the web for answers. However, many of those who are turning to the web for answers are suffering in silence. And until now, their distress has really gone unnoticed. If we really want to truly understand how our students are faring, we need to look beyond artificial and superficial metrics to more telling data. So on the screen, I have some stark statistics. 70% of teens report significant anxiety and depression. Suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst our 10 to 19-year-olds. Second, with 3,703 suicide attempts noted annually in high school grades alone. We also have 20% of teens that are predicted to experience a serious mental illness. And shockingly, 80% of teens who attempt suicide have previously given clear warning signs. So these statistics underscore this critical need for vigilant, proactive monitoring of the digital spaces that our students are navigating. And so today, we're going to explore how Gaggle's web activity monitoring can really serve as this crucial tool in protecting our students and understanding their digital behaviors, effectively offering real-time pulse on their well-being. So if you have Gaggle Safety Management, which it looks like y'all do, then you are aware that we partner with you to be the first line of defense in keeping your students' digital lives safe. So whether you are using Microsoft or Google, we are reviewing content from your district's accounts, from your students' district's accounts, and reviewing their email, their drive, their chats, and the content that they are storing. And when we find questionable content or harmful content that we believe is actionable, that is when we alert you. And while all of this really covers a ton of ground, right, in terms of how your students are using their devices, we know that there are still many virtual spaces where students are engaged in harmful and destructive behaviors that we haven't yet been monitoring. So I'd love to know, given what you know about how students are using their school devices, in what ways might they be using it that Gaggle hadn't monitored before? Awesome. I see answers coming on in. Thank you. Oh, interesting. Okay. We've noticed students recording videos of large size that don't get caught by the OneDrive scan. That's really helpful to know. VPNs. Oh, yes. And it looks like some of you are saying, like, actually nothing is slipping through the cracks because we do have some type of web activity monitoring and blocking. However, you're looking to consolidate and you are in the right place. I love that. That's so helpful to know. Edward, we are joined by the folks who have made our products work. And so I know that they are reading through the chat and they are thinking through whether there might be a bug or something, or just a way to level up our products right now. So thank you for giving us this feedback. Oh, AI generated images that are not appropriate. Okay, interesting. Seeking proxy servers on their Chromebooks. Wow, these kids are advanced, right? Oh my gosh. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I see folks sharing with everyone, sharing with just hosts and panelists. Really appreciate all of these thoughts. And you've named a lot of different places that we haven't been monitoring as of yet. And one of those big things are what they're doing on the internet, right? We have their chats, we have their drives, we have their Google Docs, we have their Hangouts, but what are they actually searching when it comes um, to web searches? Maybe there are many students who draft terms and content and they never actually push submit or enter, but it's invaluable insight into how they are feeling and their state of mind that hasn't been caught as of now. Forum posts, whether students are going on Reddit, whether students are engaging in social media, conversations with AI. This is at their fingertips. Students are able to talk to uh, these sentient beings, right? And get these answers about any questions that they might have. And some of these questions might not be appropriate. And then some chat messages on different websites hasn't been caught before. In fact, some of us might not even know that there are chats um, within certain websites that students are visiting. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that all lays the groundwork. I wish I had a drum roll. I got it. That all lays the groundwork for what we're here today to talk about, which is web activity monitoring. And that is reviewing student web searches and browser inputs to alert for potential crises. So this concerning content is reviewed by our Gaggle safety team, and if necessary, these alerts are sent to emergency contacts. And this system is really focusing on monitoring content that is related to student mental health, to bullying, to threats of violence, and other high-risk behaviors, that we are ensuring that you are getting the most concerning and actionable alerts that are being brought to the attention of you and school administrators. And as we talked about before, the hope is that you really see this as an extension of the measures that we have already taken with Gaggle safety management to ensure that any harmful activity that is conducted on your school property, on your school district accounts, is being monitored and addressed. So there are many, many benefits that this web activity monitoring can do. So right now, it is available on Chrome and on Edge, and it is going to be available on Safari no later than June 1st. And what our web activity monitoring does is that it is flagging concerning content, flagging concerning searches, and generating alerts for emergency contacts. It is actively monitoring and capturing concerning content that is entered into browsers that are drafted. So this is information that is entered into forms, into chats, into emails, even into the unsent drafts that students are creating. And then we share these screen captures of this concerning browser activity with emergency contacts, because we have our trained safety team that has 25 years of experience that is reviewing this information before it comes to you. And if I haven't said it already, which I think I have, the drafts are captured. That is so huge because there is so much valuable information that is coming in through content that isn't always entered. So our web activity monitor, hopefully right now you are already seeing it, that it is a game changer. And it really is keeping the needs of students and their digital safety as of paramount importance. So given this, I'd love for you to let me know, what are you thinking now might be the value of being alerted to some of the student web activity that we have talked about before? Go ahead and share in the chat. All right, yes, thank you so much. So students are getting savvy and they're not putting stuff in Google if they don't want it monitored. And this is going to get us to the next level. Absolutely, right? Our students are savvy. They are really, really smart and stealthy. And so this is going to really get into what they're doing on their devices, how they're using the devices, and making sure that nefarious activity is being caught. Yes, it's giving us a much earlier warning. Awesome. And someone asked if this is going to be available on iPads, and yes, as I said, that Safari isn't out yet, but when Safari is when our browser extension is ready for Safari, no later than June 1st, then web activity monitoring will be available on iPads as well. Keeping students safe who search how to hurt themselves. There, that is so important. Thank you for naming that, because we see this type of conversation that students might have sometimes with other students in chat, or maybe they're writing about this as a journal entry into a Google Doc. What's different about students talking about hurting themselves on Google versus in a web search versus in a Google Doc is that Google can actually give them the answer. So it's much more urgent that we respond to some of these searches that students have. It is real time, yes. Typically, we are able to respond within 5 to 7 minutes of this data being collected. And so, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you can compare us to how many lives are saved compared to others, but I imagine that we do save lives much faster here at Gaggle as a result of our incredible human safety review team. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so you are seeing so much value here, and that is so important. So we know that this is really about being proactive, right? It's allowing you to be proactive in monitoring the signs for harmful behavior, like cyberbullying or suicidal ideation, or other at-risk online activities, right? And catching these signs early will help your schools be able to intervene before situations escalate into a crisis, right? This also is going to give you a holistic understanding of your students' online behavior. It's going beyond these traditional filters and firewalls and really analyzing across students' web searches, across their documents and their chat, so that we are getting a real view, a real holistic view of our students. And some of us have talked about how our students are savvy and finding alternative ways. And that's not always a bad thing, right? This can be a preventative measure, right? Because this system is not only detecting harmful content, but it's also acting as a deterrent, right? When students know that their activities are being monitored or may be monitored, they're more likely to use their school resources responsibly and avoid engaging in some risky online behavior, right? And of course, this will help you support legal and policy compliance. And we know that schools have this legal and ethical obligation to provide a safe learning environment for students. And so web activity monitoring is going to help us fulfill those obligations by really enforcing some of these acceptable use policies, and complying with other regulations like SIPA. So many other reasons. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. So at this point, you're probably wondering, how in the world does it work? Well, let's get in there and take a look. So Gaggle's monitor, as we talked about, can be deployed on Chrome and on Edge browsers currently. And then you're going to have a chance to tailor the settings to either the device or the user level, depending on your district's preferences. This is going to monitor activity in the browser, and this is going to give you user level supporting, user level reporting. I can speak, I promise. I did not have a stroke. All right, here are some examples of content that has been caught with our web activity monitoring. So you can see in this chat from Pinterest, a student said, she said my dad's sister was going to kill herself. This is a really heavy content that a student was sharing, and it would not have been caught in this Pinterest chat Who knew Pinterest had chat, by the way? Um, had it not been for Gaggle's web activity monitoring. Another example is how students are communicating in Roblox. And in this case, you see, girl, I'm a kill myself, or I'm a K myself. And that shows just how our machine learning, how our algorithms are able to catch some ways, some savvy ways that students are using to communicate when they're not using the typical terminology that we're familiar with. Additionally, we talked about how students are using AI. And this is an example of how a student chatted with their AI tutor and they were inquiring about suicide methods. This would not have been caught if it weren't for web activity monitoring. Some other searches that our safety team has taken an extra look at are on the screen. You can see students were searching for things like, can you get high with cough syrup? What is the risk of young people overdosing? Can you overdose on ecstasy? Die by suicide, suicide hotline, or just suicide? What to do if your dad hits you? How to deal with being bullied? How to make a bomb? This is really serious, urgent searches that our team will look at and categorize and make sure that they'll look at the context around it before they decide how to alert you to it. So as you know, our Gaggle safety team is reviewing this content 24/7, 365 days a year to keep your kids safe. And then it's searching for this harmful content to alert school officials about. Once it's reviewed, the content becomes an incident, and our safety team is going to classify it into 8 different threat types. So this is the type of information that you have probably gotten accustomed to hearing from Gaggle about: suicide, self-harm, drugs and alcohol, nudity, sexual content, violence towards others, inappropriate content, and harassment. And as you know from being loyal customers whom we love, the way that it works is that all of that content that is flagged is filtered through our machine learning. And then that content is going through a multi-level review with multiple stages of humans who are looking at this content. And then this content is being being classified, and you are being notified. And you also know that when it comes to our issues or concerns and notifications, they're separated into 2 different levels of notification. And that's going to be the same for our web activity monitoring. These notifications are coming to you and coming to our emergency contacts in the form of email as soon as our safety team finds this concerning content. So we have questionable content, and that's the content that is concerning, right? But there isn't evidence of an immediate threat. And then there's possible student situations. And these are the highest incident level. And this is the instances where there is concerning content with immediate threat. A student might include specific times or places along with a plan to hurt themselves or others. And so we make sure that we send you an email as well as a phone call to emergency contacts that are designated to receive those. And remember, these are the instances when we really do feel that there is a need for an immediate action. And that is the reason for the phone call in addition to the email. So something that you likely have thought, right? You might have thought, why am I receiving QCons? Like even in this webinar so far, a lot of us say our favorite thing are getting our PSS notifications, our possible student situation notifications. So why? Why do we give you QCons? Yep, and someone asked if we have after hours set to call dispatch, will those possible student situations go to dispatch? Yes, they definitely will. Yes, yes, Edward. Absolutely, because it could be a precursor. These QCons could be early signs. Absolutely, they are an indication of students' thoughts or intentions but without a specific plan. And our research shows, our incredible research team has found that if a student has two QCons, about any category, then they are 12.4 times more likely to have a suicide or self-harm potential possible student situation. So this is why these are hopefully useful and actionable and just more data so that you can make informed decisions about how to serve students. You'll notice that the content in a possible student situation or a coupon is going to look almost identical to the information that you receive on all of our other type of alerts. What is different about these web activity monitoring alerts is that we're going to include alert category and severity, right? We are going to include the username. We're going to include the user email address as well as their school. But this time we're also going to include any search terms or the URL that was executed, as well as the time of search. And what is most useful is that we also provide this screen capture of the student screen of what content was typed into the form or into the field into the browser. So here's an example of an image that you might see when it comes to these screen captures. All right, awesome. I'm seeing, thank you so much. We've got so many experts on the call right now that are answering questions as they are coming in. So really, really appreciate your help. Awesome. All right. All right. So we've talked about these potential student situations, these QCons, and how you are going to be getting incredibly useful context about what your students are searching. So given what we've discussed so far, I'd love to know, like, what are you excited about when it comes to enabling web activity monitoring? How do you think that it's going to help support your students, given what we've discussed so far? And don't worry, there's more. Uh, I see an important question coming in. Will there be an additional cost? No. No. Can you believe that? No, there will not be an additional cost to have web activity monitoring, because from this point on, web activity monitoring is just going to be included in Gaggle safety management. It's just included. So any new customer that comes on, that's just what they get. And so we're hoping that you too, as our existed trusting partners, that you too are going to want to sign on and enable web activity monitoring for your students as well. Some of us are saying, I don't think I ever received a possible student situation alert. That's good, right? That's really helpful to know that that's not happening at your district, but you can always reach out to us at support and find out and ask us to do a little bit of digging in to look into your account. Awesome. Thank you so much for all of this. Okay. Yes, there are so many ways that web activity monitoring is going to be able to support you and support your students. And so I'd love to just tell you just a little bit about how it has worked so far. So we have many customers right now that are using web activity monitoring in beta. And one of those customers is an elementary school district. This is a district that is about 15,000 students. And they had a PSS for suicide, where a student was searching for suicide-related content, which we know is a direct cry for help that could easily have been missed without proper monitoring systems in place. Well, because of them having web activity monitoring, we were able to alert their emergency contacts. We talked to the main contact within the district, who acted swiftly. I'm so sorry, and was able to get this student some help. This was a student who typically would go under the radar, who was academically fine, and we are just so grateful that we were able to support this district in identifying the student as a potential risk. Another district told us that this is a district that has about 20,000 students, and they found a PSS for how to make a bomb. This was an interesting one because after looking at the context, what the superintendent decided to do was to talk to the student and to also give a tier 3 intervention to all of the students in the grade and talk to them about how to use their school devices appropriately and why looking up information like how to make a bomb isn't an appropriate use of their materials. And so two completely different situations, two completely different responses, and ways that these two districts read this information, but invaluable nonetheless. I know we're coming to the end, so I'm gonna briefly just cruise through some of this information. We're gonna talk through some things that you need to know when it comes to implementing our web activity monitoring. You're going to have some decisions that you get to make. You're going to decide whether you want whether you want Gaggle to detect all key entries. So this is all of the information that is typed into browsers. This is the forms, this is the drafts, this is the chats, and more. You also are going to decide if you want to limit what web activity monitoring is monitoring to just search engine domains. You can also decide whether you want the image of the page captured. You can decide if you want school devices monitored or if you want to monitor only by IP addresses. And that's going to allow you to configure these account-based monitoring so that there's not monitoring that's happening at home or on a personal device. As we already discussed, web activity monitoring is now a standard part of your Gaggle safety management. And so as you are getting ready to enable, just a couple things we want to make sure that you have at the top of your radar, which is you're probably going to expect an increase in alerts, but this is going to normalize over time. And since this is a new form of alert, you're going to want to consider how you can prepare your emergency contacts to respond to some of these web activity monitoring alerts. And since you're already looking at your emergency contacts, you might as well confirm that you feel like you have the sufficient coverage and that all of your incident categories are set in the way that is appropriate for your district. So as we wrap up our discussion on this hopefully transformative idea of Gaggle's web activity monitoring, let's talk about our next steps together. If what you've learned today resonates with you and you are considering implementing this tool in your district, we want to make this as easy for you as possible. Please take a moment and share with us in the chat about sorry, please take a moment and fill out the form that you see in the chat. That's going to be the first step toward empowering your district with these new enhanced monitoring capabilities and make this significant difference in student safety. Once you've submitted this form, here's what's going to happen next. Our dedicated implementation team is going to reach out to you and is going to get this ball rolling. And we're going to discuss with you some of those configurations that we talked about before to ensure that the setup really fits your unique needs perfectly. And we'll really want to understand how you manage your browser extensions, whether it's through Google, Intune, MS Group Policy, or other systems, so that we can integrate seamlessly within your existing infrastructure. The hope is that you feel supported every step of the way and that we can get started as soon as possible. So please do go to the chat and complete that form so that we can make your learning environments as safe and supportive as they can be. So as we conclude today's webinar, I just want to leave you with this thought from Erin Bennett, who's a safety specialist in Abilene ISD, Texas, that really encapsulates why we've gathered here today. She said, being able to get ahead of situations such as when a student is suicidal or is possibly trying to plot violence against a campus is a must these days. Gaggle's Web Activity Monitor is a wonderful tool that makes it easy to monitor those situations and conduct follow-up quickly. And so this hopefully just reminds us of the vital role that timely monitoring and intervention play in safeguarding our students. And we know that, Gaggle's web activity monitoring is not just a tool, it's really a part of our commitment to you and to ensuring that every student not only thrives, but is supported through their challenges, seen in their silent struggles, and is protected on every front. So thank you so much for joining us today. Your engagement, your questions, and your dedication to student safety are definitely going to make a brighter future for us all. We have some goodie favors. In addition to the form, you can find this amazing FAQ page that might answer some of the questions that are lingering on your mind. So go ahead, click on that, download this amazing document, and stick around if you still have more questions. Otherwise, I've already gone over in our time. I apologize for that, but I really hope that you got everything that you need to make an informed decision about web activity monitoring. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll stick around to answer any questions that follow. So thanks so much.